How was humanity created? Was it through natural evolution, or perhaps through deliberate alteration by a superior intelligence? Evidence suggests that an ancient alien race has been on Earth, and through genetic engineering, they created humans as slaves, and then the ancient gods could rest. Genetic intervention, the biggest secret. Among the most shocking information from the theories of Zecharia Sitchin is the idea of genetic intervention. This idea, although it may be shocking to many people, perfectly explains how humans were created, by whom, and for what purpose. These answers find resonance in various mythologies around the planet and accurately explain various events that traditional science cannot explain. Such evidence can be found by carefully observing archaeological findings, historical discoveries, scientific research, and mythological compositions. What emerges from the gathering of such knowledge is a coherent and consistent narrative that better explains the creation of humanity than any other theory we can observe around the planet. It's now irrefutably confirmed that Sumer was where the earliest tales of gods and humans were documented. Here, countless texts, more extensive and detailed than imagined, were first inscribed. Sumer was the birthplace of written historical and prehistorical records on Earth. The wealth of knowledge today comes from ancient scribes, known for their prolific and precise work. They utilized monuments, artifacts, foundation stones, bricks, utensils, and weapons of various materials as mediums for inscribing names and events. Primarily, they used clay tablets, small, wet clay pieces on which syllables, words, and sentences were carefully embossed with a stylus. After drying, these tablets became enduring records, withstanding natural erosion and human destruction over thousands of years. Throughout the ancient Near East, state and private archives, temples, palaces, and even libraries were filled with these tablets. Tens of thousands were meticulously organized by topic, titled, credited to a scribe, and sequentially numbered. These documents often referenced earlier tablets in an ancient language, particularly when discussing history, science, or deities. The uncovering of Assyria's and Babylonia's magnificence astonished archaeologists. Yet they were further intrigued by inscriptions mentioning ancient cities and deities that existed on Earth and even outside, long before human creation. Similar to Greek and Egyptian lore, Kumarbi's Avenger was concealed by cooperative deities and nurtured in a dark-hued region of Earth. The climactic battles unfolded in the heavens and the oceans. In a notable confrontation, Teshub, bolstered by 70 deities in chariots, initially suffered defeat and was forced into hiding or exile. Ultimately, Teshub engaged in direct combat with his adversary. Equipped with the Thunderstormer scattering rocks over 90 furlongs and frightfully flashing lightning, Teshub soared into the sky in his chariot, drawn by 2 gold-covered bulls of heaven, facing his foe from above. Although the fragmented tablets do not reveal the saga's conclusion, Teshub's triumph seems clear. In the Hittite royal archives, researchers discovered royal seals portraying the principal Hittite god in an embrace with the Hittite king, mirroring the description in Egyptian records, complete with an inscribed border. Remarkably, the original treaty, inscribed in Akkadian on 2 tablets, was also found within these archives. The discoveries revealed that the Egyptians and Hittites depicted similar yet distinct pantheons. This led scholars to speculate about the revelations from other ancient treaties. A text called Kingship in Heaven, and which can be widely studied together with other Hittite and Hurrian texts known as the Kumarbi cycle, laboriously pieced together, reveal to us who these ancient gods are and where they came from, bringing a divine battle with them. According to Sitchin's interpretation of ancient Sumerian records, an extraterrestrial civilization, referred to as the Dingir, a term denoting the righteous ones of the rocket ships, was the first to establish colonies on Earth. These texts consistently pinpoint a specific time frame, approximately 432,000 years prior to the Great Flood. These celestial visitors were believed to originate from a distant planet, which the Sumerians counted as the 12th entity in our solar system. This system, as they perceived it, consisted of the Sun at its core, the Moon, the 9 familiar planets, and an additional large celestial body. Zecharia Sitchin's analysis of these texts suggests that this mysterious planet has an elongated orbit of 3,600 Earth years, known as a shar. This unique trajectory positions the planet far out in the cosmos at one end, and periodically brings it into proximity with Earth, passing between Mars and Jupiter during its course. This is how the story that culminates in the creation of humanity through genetic engineering begins. It unfolds with power struggles for the Nibiru throne, marked by Alalu's escape and followed by the arrival of Anu's eldest offspring, the Anunnaki deity Ea, meaning whose house is water. Upon his arrival and the establishment of Eridu, Earth's first station, he adopted the title Enki, translating to Lord of Earth. Enki set up his domain in Eridu, situated along the Persian Gulf's coast. His initial strategy involved extracting gold from the waters of the Gulf. However, this method proved insufficient in addressing Nibiru's escalating crisis. Discontented with Enki's repeated assurances of success, Anu, the ruler, decided to inspect the situation personally. Accompanying him was his successor, Enlil. Despite not being the eldest, Enlil was destined to lead due to his mother, Antu, being Anu's half-sister. Enlil, lacking Enki's scientific prowess, excelled in administration. He was not intrigued by nature's mysteries but focused on effective management and action. Comprehensive studies suggested that mining gold in the abundant deposits of southern Africa was the optimal solution. This proposition sparked intense disputes, not just about the project, but also between the rival half-brothers. Anu contemplated remaining on Earth and appointing one of his sons as regent on Nibiru, but this idea only fueled further discord. Ultimately, a decision was made through drawing lots. Enki was tasked with organizing mining operations in Africa, while Enlil was to oversee the development of facilities in Eden for ore refinement and gold transportation back to Nibiru. Anu returned to the Anunnaki's home planet. Approximately 144,000 Earth years, or 40 shars, following the initial landing, the Anunnaki laboring in the gold mines revolted. The exact causes of the mutiny, whether the strenuous work in the mines or the underlying jealousy and conflict between the half-brothers, remain speculative. The revolt saw the Anunnaki under Enki's supervision in southern Africa refusing to work and taking Enlil hostage when he arrived to resolve the situation. These events were meticulously documented and, millennia later, shared with Earthlings through various texts. Among these, the Atrahasis epic stands as a notable source, revealing the origins of these tumultuous events. They counted years of drudgery, and 40 years too much. Forced labor they bore night and day. They were complaining, denouncing, muttering down in the ditch, "Let us face up to our foreman the prefect. He must take off our heavy burden upon us. Enlil, counselor of the gods, the warrior, come, let us remove him from his dwelling. "Enlil, counselor of the gods, the warrior, come, let us remove him from his dwelling." Several lines missing. "Now them, call for battle. Battle let us join, warfare." The gods heard his words. They set fire to their tools, they put fire to their spaces, and flame to their work baskets. Off they went, one and all, to the gate of the warrior Enlil's abode. It is very clear that the junior gods, or the Igigi, were rebelling against their leader, Enlil. It was night, halfway through the watch. The house was surrounded, but the god did not know. It was night, halfway through the watch. Ekur was surrounded, but Enlil did not know. Reading this account through the eyes and mind of a man from the 21st century, offering knowledge in video format, I have no doubt about how much this describes us as a population. All the revolts of the distant past and of modern and current life, working tirelessly to maintain the social structure we have seemed to be accurately described in these verses. Nusku opened his gate, took his weapons, and went. A gathering of divine beings assembled, with Enlil urging Anu's presence on earth for judgment against Enki. In the assembly of all the gods, he knelt, stood up, expounded the command. Anu, your father, your counselor, the warrior Enlil, your prefect, Ninurta, and your canal controller Enugi have sent me to say, who is the instigator of this battle? Who is the instigator of these hostilities? Who declared war? That battle has run up to the gate of Enlil. He transgressed the command of Enlil. Reply by the junior gods. Every one of us gods has declared war. We have set on the excavation. Excessive drudgery has killed us. Our forced labor was heavy, the misery too much. Now every one of us gods has resolved on a reckoning with Enlil. Enlil recounted the series of events, accusing Enki of inciting the rebellion. However, when the mutineers presented their grievances, Anu empathized with them. They were astronauts, not laborers. Their toil had become intolerable. But did not the task require completion? How would existence on Nibiru endure without this extracted gold? Enki proposed a resolution. Primitive workers shall be fashioned, he announced, to relieve the burden of labor. To the astonished assembly, he disclosed his ongoing experiments, assisted by the principal medical officer, Ninti Ninharsag. A primitive creature, an ape man, already inhabits Earth, specifically in East Africa. This being seemingly evolved on Earth from Nibiru's own seed of life, transmitted from Nibiru to Earth during the ancient cosmic collision with Tiamat. Genetic compatibility exists. What remains is to enhance this creature by imbuing it with some of the Anunnaki's genetic material. Thus, it will become a being resembling the Anunnaki, possessing the capacity to wield tools and the intelligence to carry out tasks. Ea made ready to speak and said to the gods, his brothers, "What calumny do we lay to their charge? Their forced labor was heavy, their misery too much. Every day, the outcry was loud, we could hear the clamor. There is Belet Ili, the midwife, is present. Let her create then a human, a man. Let him bear the yoke. Let him bear the yoke. Let man assume the drudgery of the god. Belet Ili, the midwife, is present. Let the midwife create a human being. Let man assume the drudgery of the god." They summoned and asked the goddess. The midwife of the gods, wise Mami, "Will you be the birth goddess, creatress of mankind? Create a human being, that he bear the yoke. Let him bear the yoke, the task of Enlil. Let man assume the drudgery of the god." Nintu made ready to speak, and said to the great gods, "It is not for me to do it. The task is Enki's. He it is that cleanses all. Let him provide me the clay so I can do the making." If we look to the Enuma Elish, a very similar story can be read. When Marduk heard the god's speech, he conceived a desire to accomplish clever things. He opened his mouth addressing Ea. He counsels that which he had pondered in his heart. "I will bring together blood to form bone. I will bring into being Lulu, whose name shall be man. I will create Lulu, man, on whom the toil of the gods will be laid that they may rest. I will skillfully alter the organization of the gods. Though they are honored as one, they shall be divided into two. Ea answered as he addressed a word to him, expressing his comments on the resting of the gods. Let one brother of theirs be given up. Let him perish that people may be fashioned. Let the great gods assemble, and let the guilty one be given up that they may be confirmed. Marduk assembled the great gods, using gracious direction as he gave his order. As he spoke, the gods heeded him. The king addressed a word to the Anunnaki. Your former oath was true indeed. Now also, tell me the solemn truth. Who is the one who instigated warfare, who made Tiamat rebel and set battle in motion? Let him who instigated warfare be given up, that I may lay his punishment on him, but you sit and rest. The Agigi, the great gods, answered him. That is, Lugal-Dimarankia, the counselor of the gods, the Lord. Chingu is the one who instigated warfare, who made Tiamat rebel and set battle in motion. They bound him, holding him before Ea. They inflicted the penalty on him and severed his blood vessels. From his blood he, Ea, created mankind, on whom he imposed the service of the gods and set the gods free. After the wise Ea had created mankind and had imposed the service of the gods upon them, the concept of creating a primitive worker to alleviate the Anunnaki's labor load was met with widespread agreement. The unanimous decision of the deities was to forge this new being, the worker. They declared, man shall be his name. It was Mami, known alternatively as Bele Ili, Ninma, or Ninhursag, revered as the mother of the gods, who asserted that the task would require Ea's expertise, as he was endowed with exceptional skills. In the sanctified confines of the house of Shimti, akin to a medical facility, the deities congregated in anticipation. Ea contributed to the concoction that enabled the mother goddess to commence the creation of man. The scene was graced with the presence of birth goddesses. Amidst the ongoing chanting of mystical incantations, the mother goddess diligently crafted. Her efforts culminated in a triumphant exclamation, signaling a momentous achievement. I have created. My hands have made it. She, in a moment of solemnity, articulated her thoughts, directly speaking to the assembly of the great Anunnaki gods. You commanded me a task. I have completed it. I have removed your heavy work. I have imposed your toil on the worker man. You raised a cry for a worker kind. I have loosed the yoke. I have provided your freedom. The creation of Lulu Amalu, or the mixtured worker, marked a significant milestone in genetic experimentation. This entity, birthed from the fusion of an ape woman's egg and advanced genetic engineering in a lab flask, represented a unique blend of species. Initially, these hybrid beings were incapable of reproduction, necessitating continuous intervention from female Anunnaki, who took on the roles of birth goddesses. However, through persistent efforts and numerous trials, Enki and Ninhursag eventually crafted the ideal specimen. This final creation was aptly named Adam, signifying he of earth or earthling, marking a new chapter in terrestrial life. The breakthrough was met with great enthusiasm by the Anunnaki. Their collective joy was evident as they ran together and kissed her feet, signifying their approval and reverence. This moment heralded a new era, with man, the primitive worker, now shouldering the burdens initially intended for others. The Anunnaki, who had come to Earth to establish their domains, inadvertently laid the foundations of a unique form of servitude. Unlike traditional slavery, which involved the transportation of enslaved individuals across continents, this was a self-engineered enslavement, with the primitive workers being the direct creation of the Anunnaki themselves. This development, however, wasn't part of the original scheme. Was it merely a twist of fate or an inevitable outcome of destiny? It was a rebellion among the gods that ultimately led to the genesis of mankind. The creation of humanity, as narrated in the Sumerian texts, was a collective decision taken by the assembly of gods. This concept echoes intriguingly in the Book of Genesis. Despite its portrayal of a singular god, the term Elohim, which translates to gods or deities in the plural form, is used. This plurality is strikingly apparent in the declaration, and Elohim said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." The Genesis account, along with other origin stories in the text, can be traced back to Sumerian sources. It appears to be a streamlined rendition of the Sumerian narratives, amalgamating various deities into one supreme entity and recounting the deliberations in the divine assembly. The Old Testament distinctly delineates humans from gods or heavenly beings. It states, "The heavens are the heavens of the Lord, unto mankind earth he hath given." The term the Adam was used for the newly created being, derived from Adama, meaning the soil of the earth, thereby labeling him as the earthling. The resemblance between gods and humans is prominently displayed in ancient art. Contrary to the assumption that the Hebrew god lacked physical form due to prohibitions against idol worship, scriptural narratives, including those in Genesis, suggest otherwise. The so-called God in these texts often appears in human-like form, capable of face-to-face interaction, physical encounters, and communication. This anthropomorphic depiction implies that humans were designed to resemble and emulate the gods. Yet this apparent simplicity masks a profound enigma. The critical question arises: how could humans be fashioned to so closely mirror the Anunnaki in physical, mental, and emotional aspects? The process and intricacies of humanity's creation remain a deep-seated mystery. Science struggles to clearly define the origins of human life, while evolution elucidates the broad sequence of events leading to the emergence of life on Earth. From the simplest unicellular organisms to humans, it fails to explain the sudden appearance of Homo sapiens. This event seems almost instantaneous in the context of the millions of years required by evolutionary processes, with no preceding evidence of a gradual transition from Homo erectus. The hominid genus Homo is undoubtedly a product of evolution. However, Homo sapiens emerged as a result of a swift, groundbreaking event. This species appeared mysteriously around 300,000 years ago, significantly earlier than evolutionary timelines would suggest. This enigma remains unresolved by mainstream scholars. Yet, alternative explanations exist within ancient texts. Sumerian and Babylonian writings offer insights, as does the Old Testament. Homo sapiens, or modern humans, were ostensibly brought into existence by the so-called or interpreted ancient deities. In the narratives surrounding the Anunnaki, it is not suggested that they were the creators of mammals, primates, or even the earlier hominids. Rather, their significant contribution was in the creation of Homo sapiens, the modern human as we know it. This genesis is not attributed to the broader genus Homo, but specifically to the inception of our direct ancestor, the first Homo sapiens. Ancient Sumerian texts provide fascinating accounts of how the entity known as the Adam, as mentioned in the Bible, was crafted. This was not a reference to early human species, but rather the first of our kind, Homo sapiens. The texts recount the efforts of Enuma alongside others in a series of experimental creations leading to the development of a mixed one, or Lulu. Upon achieving what was deemed a perfect prototype, Enuma proclaimed with great significance, "My hands have made it." This moment is heralded as the pivotal point at which Homo sapiens made their debut on Earth. In the 71st episode of Anunnaki Secrets Revealed, a deeper exploration of these themes is promised, drawing upon the extensive research of Zecharia Sitchin. The initial success in creating this new being led to a process akin to what is known today as cloning, producing groups of 7 males and 7 females. This process, however, required considerable involvement from Anunnaki females, who played the role of birth goddesses. The cloning method, being slow and dependent on these goddesses, presented limitations as these beings were incapable of natural reproduction due to their hybrid nature. To address this, Enki undertook another daring genetic manipulation, this time without prior authorization. By adjusting the X and Y chromosomes, he endowed the human race with the ability to reproduce independently. This significant moment is mirrored in the biblical story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, or the Sumerian Eden. In this narrative, Enki is represented as the Nachash, often translated as serpent, but also signifying one who is knowledgeable or holds secrets. While Enlil had agreed to the initial genetic experimentation, his support was not wholehearted. Unlike Enki, who was deeply engrossed in the scientific aspects of the endeavor, Enlil was more cautious, perhaps even critical of their role in this cosmic play. His displeasure became evident following Enki's second genetic intervention. Enlil's reaction to this development was marked by his concern that humans, now capable of reproduction, were becoming too similar to the Anunnaki themselves. This narrative raises profound questions about the nature and implications of such technological advancements. One such question is the true essence of the tree of life. Is it possible to attain it through a fusion of human essence with advanced technology, as seen in the concept of transhumanism? Or does this pursuit risk violating the fundamental principles of the universe? The exploration of these themes not only delves into our past, but also poses significant questions for our future. In the future, I intend to explore these philosophical questions. In Zecharia Sitchin's analysis of Sumerian writings, it's conveyed that Earth's genetic alphabet was delivered by Nibiru during a celestial confrontation about 4 billion years ago. Considering the possibility that evolution on Nibiru started even just 1% earlier than on Earth, it means a head start of 40 million years. Therefore, it's entirely feasible that the Anunnaki, a highly developed species, mastered space travel about 500,000 years ago. Upon their arrival on Earth, they presumably encountered intelligent life forms still in the hominid phase. Originating from the same genetic seed, it was feasible to perform transgenic modifications, a concept realized and proposed by Enki. He asserted, "The being we need already exists. All we need to do is put our genetic mark on it." It's likely that by this time, the Anunnaki had a comprehensive understanding of their own genome and could analyze the hominid's genome with similar proficiency. What specific characteristics were chosen by Enki and Enuma to be transferred from the Anunnaki to the hominids? According to both Sumerian texts and biblical accounts, the first humans had a degree of the Anunnaki's longevity, but not their immortality, as the creator couple intentionally excluded the genes responsible for the Anunnaki's extended lifespans. However, certain flaws remained concealed within the recombined genome of the atom. Sitchin argues that a detailed examination of the data in Sumerian texts by qualified scientists could yield significant insights in biogenetics and medicine. An illustrative example is Williams syndrome, affecting approximately 1 in 20,000 births, characterized by a significantly low IQ yet exceptional artistic abilities. Sitchin points out that this condition, often resulting in a form of idiot savant, is caused by a small deletion in chromosome 7, leading to a loss of about 15 genes. This aligns with the Sumerian account of a visually impaired man who was taught music by Enki. Regarding the initial inability of the atom to reproduce, leading to reliance on cloning, it's inferred that the hybrid being had only the basic 22 chromosomes. The range of diseases, deficiencies, and potential cures that modern biomedicine might find on these chromosomes are reflected in the Enki and Enuma texts. The subsequent genetic alteration, mirrored in the biblical story of Adam and Eve, involved the addition of the X and Y chromosomes, enabling procreation. Recent studies have shown that these chromosomes have roles beyond just determining sex, particularly the Y chromosome, which has surprised scientists with its varied functions. The acquisition of the X and Y chromosomes and the source of mtDNA raises questions. Hints in the Sumerian texts suggest Enki, Enki's consort, had a pivotal role in the final stage of human creation. It was she who was chosen to endow humans with a further genetic legacy, the newborn's fate thou shalt pronounce. Enki would fix upon it the image of the gods. This resonates with the biblical phrase, "In their image and after their likeness did the Elohim create the Adam." If Enki, Enki's spouse and Marduk's mother, was indeed the source of Eve's mtDNA, the significance of the sister-wife lineage becomes clearer, representing another connection to humanity's cosmic origins. Sumerian texts suggest that while the gods reserved eternal life for themselves, they did endow mankind with wisdom, a boost in intelligence genes. This is particularly evident when examining the myth of Adapa. Nevertheless, I have to say that the myth of Adapa needs to be analyzed on another occasion. For now, I think your coffee may be frozen, and your popcorn might have run out. In the future, we will have new, more specific details regarding this matter. For now, this observation already presents very rich details about our distant and obscure past, but it may gradually receive new perspectives and discoveries. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in the topic. See you in the next video.